Welcome, good morning, everybody. Teresa's here, Judy and Luz and Grace. We're going to start by getting our palettes filled with our primary colors. With our primary colors, we can mix greens, and we can mix purple, and we can mix other colors. But today I'm inviting you to put, if you have extra blues, let me explain to you what I mean by extra blues. I have all these different blues. We have a cerulean blue, I have a cobalt, a phthalo, ultramarine, and we get different hues with all these different blues. So for instance, ultramarine blue is a little bit on the purple side, whereas cerulean blue is a little bit more on the yellow side. It's lighter, you can see the difference. So when you mix them with other colors, you're going to get different shades. So it's going to be nice because we want to, this is our painting, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but we want to maybe get some different kind of blue shades in our painting today. So let's talk about our painting. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, this is a folk artist that I found on the internet, and I thought that her art pieces were so charming, and we call it the folk art or naive art, which roughly and academically speaking, it just means this is an untrained artist, and they're not preoccupied with things like absolute reality, perspective, proportion even. They're just expressing themselves, and the folk art comes from a much more emotional level, not much more, but they're more concerned with putting on the canvas this thing that they have in their imagination, and let's not worry about perspective or anything. So fun to do. My sister Francine picked this one out. This is a very whimsical blue horse. So what I work with is an 8x10 canvas. You may have a different size canvas, which is fine, because what we're going to do to start is we're going to divide our canvas in 4. Draw yourself a line down the middle and down the middle, vertically and horizontally. Middle and horizontally to start. So we got our paint mixed, poured out. We've got a red, yellow, blue, black, and white on our palette. So that's how we're going to start. And then I invited you to bring some extra greens and blues if you have them. If you don't worry. You're going to get a beautiful painting. And then the next thing we're going to do is divide our canvas into 4. The most difficult thing, or most challenging, I'd rather say challenging, thing we're going to do is draw the horse. So in order to make that easier on everybody, we're going to take the lower left-hand square and divide that into halves. So you can see that I took the lower left-hand square and I drew a line down the middle of it vertically and a line down the middle of it horizontally. And if you can get that going, we are almost finished. No, I'm just kidding. It's the hardest part. And I already started roughly sketching in the horse, but I'm going to go over all of that with you. And I'll show you how we're going to end up. We're going to sketch our painting here. Lots of circles, lots of vertical tree trunks, or I can describe them as rectangles. And then our horse and the river. So we have three major elements here. Well, let's say four. We have the horse, the river, the background, and the trees. So we're going to start, just because we want to establish the main focus, which is the blue horse. We'll start with drawing the blue horse. I'm going to keep that there, and we'll draw together. So what I'd like you to do is right at the top of this, the square that we just drew, and we divided it, right in the middle, I want you to draw an oval shape. And that is going to represent the horse's back end. All right, so we've got, let me see if I can, hold on. I'm going to get a marker so we can really see this. All right, so we're going to draw a circle here, and it's going to represent the horse's back end. And it's right down the middle of these lines that we just drew. You see that? Okay. So we got that drawn. And then about a quarter of the way down, you're going to do a sloping back. It goes down and up like a roller coaster. So we're going to go down from the back of the circle, or from the top of the circle, down, make a sloping back of the horse, up, the roller coaster is going up, and then down into the other side. Let's get about that much done for now. So I started from the top of the circle, I swayed down for the back of the horse, up for the back of the horse's neck, and then down into the other square on this side. We're going to dip down a little bit. Now his little face, if we continue this line down, his little face is going to be on the right lower square towards the bottom. You're going to just dip down, round at the nose. This is the nose of the horse, right? But on this side, I want you to do a little curve to represent the horse's jaw. I'm exaggerating it. Let me show you here. So we came down, curved around, but see, I'm only about, if this is the half, I'm about halfway down the page of this square. I hope that's not confusing. If it is, jump in and ask me. So we're going to get the lower part of the horse's face. There's his nose at the bottom. And then here's his jaw. It sticks out just like a little bubble and connects to this center line. And then we're going to go up a little bit. If you can get that much drawn, pop back over here to this one. So we're going to go up a little bit. And now at the lower end of the circle, follow that over a little bit and then draw a little belly, the belly of the horse. It's almost like you're drawing a jelly bean shape. And that's going to join up with the horse's neck like that. Easy, easy peasy. It's a very weird shape, but in a minute it's going to look like a horse. I'm going to quickly draw a little tail. Tail comes down, pops over like that. There's the tail. We're halfway there. I think once we get the legs in, you're going to see a horse and you'll be so proud of yourself that you made a horse. All right, let's do that. At the bottom of your circle, you're going to make like a funnel shape. Got one line coming from this side of the circle pointing down, one line coming from this side of the circle pointing down, and then this back one swoops out and then bends down, right? Because that's the, I don't remember, I don't know horse parts very well, but there's his, I'm going to call that his ankle bone, because I don't know what the real word is. And then we're just going to do a square at the bottom and then join that up at the top. There's a horse, one horse leg. So you see how it swoops down and out. Remember where your center lines are so that you place the legs in the proportionate place. So you want the legs to be a little bit shorter than his face. So I didn't do a very good job. Let's see, I'm going to have to make the face a little bit longer because the face, his nose should be longer than the end of his feet. So either make the feet shorter or the face longer. And then you're going to put the other leg matching it, but behind it, and it's going to be shorter than the front leg. A little bit shorter. So just kind of mimic the back leg like that. Should be a little bit shorter than the front leg. And if you follow the arch of the neck, I'll repeat all of this. So don't worry. If you follow the curve of the neck that we drew here, you're going to just follow that like a circle and come down and make the front leg be about the same level as the bottom leg. And come back up. So pretty, this horse. And then the back leg is going to be in front, but behind the front leg. So let's talk about the horse again, because I don't know, I don't draw horses very often, so it's an unusual shape. We'll talk about it a little bit more. We started with a circle, we sloped down and up over to the right-hand square, dipped it down, curved at the bottom, made a little bubble out for the jaw, a little curve here for the underside of the neck, then down for the belly, and then right back up to that circle that we first drew. Got a little tail in there. The back leg that's in the front, closest to us, is connected to that circle that we first drew, and it goes down, curves in the front, sticks out in the back to represent the ankle bone or the furlock. I don't remember what that's called. Curves around and attaches to the back of the circle. And then all we do here is just match up the back legs to the front legs. And the front leg doesn't have that ankle bone. It's just straight. Let's get in the mane. The mane starts at the top of this arch here. And we're just going to put in a fuzzy mane and have it connect to the thickest part of his neck. But right at the top of this bubble that we made, we're going to put two pointy ears. 1, 2 pointy ears. Can you see them in there? We're going to be redrawing all of this, so don't worry about a thing. And then 2 eyes, 1 and 1. And then in the middle, I'm just drawing the letter T as in Thomas. There's the top of the T, and then I'm going to make a T right down the middle of his nose. And we're going to paint that white eventually. And that's about it. We can do all the finishing touches on the horse in a little bit. Francine, I'm going to rely on you to tell me when to go to the next step. But right now I'm going to put the horse here so you can see it. Oops, sorry. Hold on. Oh yeah, that looks nice. Do you feel like you have it, Fran? Let's see. You have to unmute yourself. Nope, you just.
Oh, yeah, I think I have it.
Okay.
See,
Let's move on then, and we're going to establish our river. The river is a big width at the bottom, and then it curves around and gets smaller, and then it goes horizontally in the background because it's so far back. So that's going to give us a sense of perspective. We'll draw the beginning of the river to the right of his nose. Let's make a line there. And we'll do the other side of the river close to his feet, straight down from his feet. So then what you're going to do is you're going to bring that line up to about almost the top, and then have it curve off to the side like that. You see where it's falling in the square? And then we're going to go and find the other side of the beginning of the river and have it curve, skip the horse, and find it again on the other side of the horse, and have it come up to, how far up did we go? Oh, much thinner, much thinner. It should be very skinny here and then come down like that. Forget this line. So it should be below the center line, because we need to make room for lots of trees up here. So don't make it too high up. I almost made it too high up, but we're going to forget this. Don't pay attention to that. We want this to be skinny over here, skinny, skinny and narrow. And then find your curve and have it go off the page like that. And this is going to be our river. Let's talk about our trees. So these are all just really basic shapes, but I'm having to describe where they are because we're not in person. Let me see, Francine, I'm trying to move this aside so we can see you better. Okay.
Carla, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you just fine.
You should mute people because we have plenty of feedback from other people.
I can tell. Okay. Okay. I hope that's better. If you need to talk to me, then just pop in. All right. So what we have next is all of our trees. Let's talk about our little trees. We're going to start with this one in the front and this one in the on the front, but on the other side, the biggest trees. So we'll do it together. It's easy. It's like we're going to be drawing lollipops. Down here on our right-hand square, we're going to draw one trunk. You can have it be a little bit curvy if you want. And then we're going to make it a little bit thick. So I'm going to come down at the bottom and follow that up. And maybe I'm going to put a branch out this way and a branch out this way. And then make them a little bit thick. And then I want you to draw a circle through it. Doesn't need to be perfect. There's our first tree. Let's go over here and draw this one. I want this tree to kind of bend over, curve around the horse. So it's not straight up and down. And I'm going to put a little base on it and then come up. And I'm going to make a letter Y, like Y as in yellow. And then I'm going to draw a circle through it. There's our second tree. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Let's see. So we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have about 11 tree trunks on the right side. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tree trunks on the left side. But you can see that they're all different sizes. So we're going to try to conquer the right side first. I hope I'm not being too wordy because this is all very simple. I just want you to be able to place things in a nice way. Let's start with just to the left of this big tree. Let's do another tree trunk, but let's make it a little bit higher up and have it go up and behind our tree that we just drew. We're just putting a trunk there. And then we'll do one on this side of it. Another trunk. And then let's do a shorter trunk on either side of that one. It's happening fast. I'll try to slow down. So we got two long, wait, 1, 2, yeah, let's do 2 long ones here. Let's get that much done. 1, 2, 3. So now we have 5 trunks on this side. With this one here, this longer one, let's draw a circle, but let's have the circle go behind our main circle. This is the main star of the show right there. So this guy is a supporting actor and he's going to go behind. And then let's continue that thinking down here. We'll just pretend that imagine that they're behind each other. So you're having them overlap. And then just imagine in your mind, it's a complete circle, but it's invisible. Can't see it, right? Because it's behind the star of the show. And now let's continue that thinking. So we've got some tree trunks that are behind the river, and some tree trunks are in front. Most of mine are in the front right now. You see that? So let's do some behind. So we have one here. Make it a letter Y, as in yellow. And let's draw a circle around it. And then give it some friends and some supporting actors in the back. Imagine it's going all the way through. And then you see how having it go behind, and I skip. Imagine it's going on all the way around, but then I skip so I don't have to erase lines. And then I'll do one here, and I'll draw a circle. And then up at the top, we have to imagine some circles here too. So I'll have some circles coming in from the top of the canvas. It's hard for me to draw sideways. Going around, imaginary, finding the other side. Let's do one here. Going around. So yours doesn't need to be exactly like mine as long as you're doing the same sort of feeling. So we're just having a bunch of circles overlapping each other. And we're creating a blue forest. So hopefully that's easier for you now to do the other side. So all we're going to do is go to the other side, and let's give a bunch of tree trunks behind the horse, above the horse, of course. And they're shorter. Because we want to imagine that they're way back in the forest. Make this one a little bit longer. And then I'm going to start drawing my circles. You have to use your imagination. Here's a nice big circle I made up at the top, and a nice big circle here. Pretending, so you see how I've got all my overlapping circles. I'll leave this up for you for a minute so you can see what we're doing here. Francine, your concentration on your face. Get that in. So you see that I'm just imagining that these circles are complete circles behind the front ones, the stars. This is star number 1, star number 2, and everybody else is a background player. Are we ready to paint? Yeah, okay. Awesome. Well done, you guys. We're going to start by painting in our tree trunks with black. So I'm going to use a small brush like this because I want to do thin lines for now. You're going to take some black, and it doesn't need to be thick. If you're getting thick paint, you need to water it down a little bit. If you're using acrylic paint, add a little water because we're just outlining, or we're not outlining, we're just putting our first layer in of our tree trunks. We're filling them in black. All your tree trunks. You want to let that dry. So that's why we're doing this first, to establish our beautiful trees. They don't need to be perfect. We're just trying to get them in there and have them start to dry before we start in on everything else. So that's why I don't want the paint to be so thick. Because the thicker it is, of course, the longer it's going to take to dry. So just a thin line or a thin paint. Right. And once you've got your tree trunks painted in, I'd like you to outline your river in black. Very thin paint. Again, we're just kind of redrawing things so we don't lose them. We're going to just outline our river. And then go ahead, if you're ahead of me, and start outlining your horse. Now, on the horse, we're just outlining the outside. So remember this circle that you drew for the horse's back end? You don't need this line here. So don't paint it in. Just go around it. Right? If you want to erase it so you don't get confused, but you don't have to erase it if you're going to paint over it. And then the back leg should be, here's the belly, and it's connecting to the neck. The front leg, oh, I should have skipped that. We don't need this line here. We'll have to paint that in. Yeah, I made a boo-boo. I made a mistake there. Right? Because this part of the belly connects to the front leg like that, but I messed it up. So I'll fix it in the painting process. And then the back leg is behind the belly. So there's a line there. And then this back leg is behind the neck line. Now all of this is going to get painted blue eventually, so we don't need to make a thick line. We're just we're recreating our drawing with paint. I put some little furry edges on the mane. Don't forget the two ears here, the jaw, the nose. You can go ahead and put in two eyes, just so you don't forget that your horse has eyes. And we'll paint in the T with white later. And then that's about it. Okay, here comes the fun. We're going to let that dry. I'm going to wait a minute. Mine's very wet. I could use my hair dryer and dry it quickly, but I don't think I need to. We'll see. We're going to find out. So the next color, you guys keep painting, and I'll keep talking. The next color we're going to use is a light green, and we're going to paint in the background of the entire painting, except the horse, except the river, because that's going to be blue. So we're going to mix a green. If you have a green already, I have two greens here. I have a light green, a dark green, and then I can also make a green with one of my blues by mixing blue and yellow together. And there I get a beautiful light green with my lighter blue, which is called cerulean blue. You see that I already put in a dark blue and a light blue. You can use either, but if you use the dark blue, you're going to get a darker green. If you use the lighter blue, you're going to get a lighter green. So I want a lighter green for the background. So I'm mixing blue and yellow together. And I want it to be rather thin because it's going to be a background color and it doesn't need to be thick. So I'm adding a little bit of water to it by dipping my brush straight into the water and then just dripping a little bit in here and mixing it up to make a thinner green. And we're going to paint in somewhat of a wash. A wash is a thin coating. All right, so let's do that. I'm going to start up here in my trees, keep it thin, very, very thin, and just wash it over. Maybe we should have even started this way, maybe. Yeah, it's okay. Too late now. I'm going to go around my tree trunks, especially if they're not dry. If they're dry, you can just kind of paint right through them. But for now, I'm just washing in a green background. More or less serves two purposes. The first one being that it knocks out the white canvas. Now I remember why I didn't want to put the green first, because I want the river and the horse to be blue, and I don't want the green to interrupt the blue. So we could have done it another way, but this works too. Just going around, we're just trying to knock out the white canvas with our green wash. I'm going to show you where I got in trouble here. You can see, well, maybe you can't. My black was still wet, so you see how it blended here with the green. It's not a horrible thing to happen, but you might find that happening and you'll get discouraged. Just go around it. Go around your tree if it's not dry. And we'll come back later and we'll fix it. I'm going to go around the river, but also important, don't keep in mind your circles. I drew my tree circles with a marker, so I didn't lose them. If you have a pencil, you should still be able to see your circles. Hopefully. Right up to the river, and then below the river. We have a lot of work to do here. This can be very messy in the back. I just like to remind you guys, you don't have to be perfectionists, especially at this stage in the painting process. This is all background stuff that's going to get lots of texture and pattern painted over it later. So this is just all stuff in the back to establish a green background and to knock out the white canvas. So we're going to just get all our trees covered in. And it's going to look like it's finished almost, which is just an illusion because we still have a lot of detail to put in. You might find that you run out of your green, so you have to go make some more, and it doesn't have to be the same shade. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. Don't worry about that. But keep it thin. Go around the horse. Be messy. It's okay. I'm actually overlapping some of my black lines that I did, and that's fine. We want that actually. And here's the river. Now we can see the river a little better. All right, we're going to let that thin wash dry for a minute. You can hit it with a hairdryer if you want to, if you have one. It's always a good idea to have a hairdryer handy during these painting sessions, because we're all going to have paint that's varying in transparency, and we might need it if it's too thick. All right, so there's the green background drawn in. Okay. If you're finished with that part, I want you to take a little bit of white. This is going to be our first coat of white, and I would like you to paint in the tail and the mane. The tail, fill it in with white. And the mane. And the reason I'm choosing to do the mane right now is because I want it to dry. And then later, if we need more, we'll go back and put some more in, because it's very transparent. White can be very transparent. And this little T-zone, so I'm drawing the letter T right across his face, just to establish that. So let me show you what I did. It's hard to tell with the white, but I painted in his white, tail white. I filled it in white, and I filled his mane in white. And I drew a letter T down his face, middle of his face. Once we get the blue in, that's going to become more obvious. So don't worry about that. I'm going to get rid of this here. So we're just putting some white just to get the first layer in. And now the next thing we're going to do is mix ourselves a light blue. So either it's going to be very transparent light blue, meaning it's very runny with water in it. And we're going to take a little bit of blue and a little bit of white, mix them together until you get a light blue that you like. And let's paint in our river for now. Let's paint that river in. So you might need a smaller brush to go around the horse. But we're going to establish our beautiful river in the background. And we want it to be light blue because we're going to paint in the texture with a darker blue over it. Definitely need a smaller brush now because I need to go around that horse. So pay attention in the back because you've got some trees in front of the river, so you're going to have to go behind your tree trunks to paint in that river. Very carefully going around the shape of the horse, around his legs with a small brush. And let's get that stream in. We'll let that dry a little bit. And I'm going to go back in, and with my darker blue, I'm going to paint in my horse. Just, no, I'm not adding any white to it. I'm just doing a darker blue, or whatever blue you have, whatever blue you have. I happen to have this cobalt blue here, so I'm going to use it. And I'm going to paint in my blue horse. I had a little bit of wet white paint that just mixed in with my dark blue paint, but that's okay because I can go over it again and give it a second coat, and I'll do that later. But for now, I want to get this dark blue horse in. Let that start drying. Don't forget to do his little face. And if you have to repaint something because you lost it, like for instance, if I'm doing his eyes and I paint over them with blue, I'll just fix it. And his ears. You know, his ears could be white. Maybe we'll do that so you can see them better. I might do that. Let's see what that looks like. So I'm rinsing out my brush. I'm going to make some white ears, I think. I don't know if I'm going to like it, but I'm going to try. Oh, yeah. I made white ears because I wanted to be able to see them better. And then the little T for the face. Let me hold that up. Very rough right now, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. I would switch to hang on to that smaller brush that you were using that looks about like that, because we're going to be doing all our pattern now. Start working in our pattern. So what we want to do while all this blue is drying, we're going to do our grass. Take a look at that. You have to really look closely to see that there's a more than one color green. We did our background green, and now we're going to use a different color green, a little bit darker, and we're going to get in some grass texture. So I'm going to come in here and put down some other greens. You can make a darker green by creating it with blue and yellow mixed together. And if you want to darken it up a little bit, maybe add in a little bit of extra blue or a tiny, tiny bit of black to darken up your green. The only thing we're going for here is just a little bit deeper green. And we're going to start putting in our grass texture. So at the bottom, starting at the bottom, you want to start doing some vertical brush strokes like this, little grass. Just painting them in. It's going to take us a while because this is all about the texture now. You just want to start getting in grass. So here, I'm going to finish just one side of it. So we've got this grass texture, and they're just little vertical brush strokes. But as we get back past the horse, I want those brush strokes to get really short and small until they just disappear under your trees. Right? So in the front, they're big and tall, but as they go back, they get smaller and smaller because they're further away from the eye. So that'll help with giving this painting the illusion of perspective, as though it's getting smaller and smaller in the background because it's further away from our eyes. So I'm going to spend a little time working on that texture so I do a nice job. And I'm just getting a darker green so that it's contrasted against our light green background. And then we can see the texture, right? And then as you work your way up and behind the trees, it's going to get smaller and smaller and shorter and shorter. Maybe they're going to turn into little dots in the back. I don't know. And the other thing to keep in mind is you don't want, try not to make rows, straight patterned rows. Let those grass textures be random looking, so it's not so uniform. So some of them maybe are heading sideways a little bit to the left. Maybe some of them are leaning to the right. We don't want them to be perfect. Or maybe you do. I mean, that's another look. We're just building up this texture. The grass. So they're long and tall in the front compared to the back, that is. And then just kind of layering them in a random way. When I say random, what I mean is that you don't want them to be lined up perfectly straight. You want them to overlap each
Excuse me?
other.
Sorry. With regards to the legs of the horse, is it also blue or is it black and blue? Oh, okay.
Do you
Okay.
see that this part is the horse's hair, the mane?
Yeah.
And then we did a
Okay.
little T on the face, a little T-zone on the face.
Okay.
And then the rest of the face is blue.
Okay.
Okay.
We can see it now. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay. You're welcome.
Founded on the principles of person-centred care, Art to Wellness is designed by our ageing specialists to meet the home care needs of your loved ones through immersive and holistic programs. The Art to Wellness approach to successful ageing is made available to our community through our Painting with Mom complementary classes. This is our way of bringing families and community together through the arts while promoting personal self-well-being for all.
When you're doing the grass, I'm focusing too much. Oh, I know. I remember. You don't want to cover up the background entirely, right? We're just putting a little texture on top of our background color, which was a light green. So we can see both colors.
Okay. Sorry. Can you please project the face of the horse again? Okay. So, oh yeah. I just want to see where the blue should be on the face. Okay.
So his nose comes down straight on the right side, and then on the other side, we put a little bubble here out to represent the jawbone.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Of course. So now I'm progressing up above the horse. So I want these little grass bits to get small, like we talked about earlier. I'm careful to go around the tree trunks. And depending on where you are in your progress, be sure if you see a little white spot in your background, just kind of fill them in with the green so you don't have any white canvas showing through. Because I still have a little bit of white showing through. Okay, while you guys are working on that, I'm gonna fix what I did here on my horse. I wanted him to be completely blue and I mixed a little bit of white into his body. So I'm just fixing that now that it's dry again. All right, keep going. I'm going to just get some water. I need to change my water, so you guys keep working. I'm back. The next thing we're going to work on is the river. And I want to talk a little bit about the river while you guys are working. I'm going to start with the same blue that I used for the horse's body. And I'm going to do the edges. You know how we were going up and down for the grass strokes? We're going to go horizontally for the river. The brush strokes are going to be horizontal, not up and down. And we're going to darken in the edge of the river. And then we'll put this reflection in with the darker blue as well. All with horizontal brush strokes. So I did the river in the light blue, and now I'm going to do the edges in a darker blue, the same color as the horse. And I'm going to start laying in horizontal brush strokes along the edge of the river. First we want to do the edge of the river in horizontal, all the way back there. Even if it's just a little bit, it's still horizontal along the edge. You could actually, if you need to, just so you don't get confused, go right over the black line that you did put on it to outline it. So we're just going to overlap that color. Horizontal, horizontal, horizontal. So we're establishing the edges, giving them a little shadow color. And then I want to do some skinny little horizontal lines going down from his mouth, like it's a darker reflection, and going down from his little legs, all the way down with the blue. Maybe it gets a little bit. This darkness in here represents his body, the shadow of his body. I'm going to put a little bit darkness here at the bottom. And then now I'm going to come back in and fill in a little bit, leaving a lot of light blue showing for now. So you wanted the edges darker. And now we're going to fill in just a little bit. So the rest of it is not as dark, just more sparse in the brush strokes. Just a little bit. And then, while it's still wet, dip into some white and put the white mix it in with your dark blue, just in the middle. Don't take it all the way to the edge. That's the best way to do it. Just keep in mind, I don't want to take this white horizontal lines to the edge. We'll leave the edge darker. The edges are the side of the river. And since it's still wet, it's going to mix in with that dark blue. And it's going to look really nice. But don't go over your shadows. You see what I'm doing? I'm skipping the horse's reflection in the water. I don't want to put white in there because that'll erase the reflection. So we're going to go in between the legs, right? And if somehow you're missing this and you didn't quite get it the way you want it, we can always go back in later and add in the dark.
No.
Yeah? All right, so we're putting some white. Is that you, Grace? I think you're not muted anymore. We're just keeping the white reflection in the center of the river. Keep the edges dark. So we can still see the edges dark. If you need to add more, I think I might add more later. And the reflection of his nose and the reflection of his legs in blue. Okay, I think we took care of that. So that's what it's looking like now. So you can see all this texture going on. We did a lot of work already. Horizontal lines for the river. And then we're going to start in on our trees. And it's going to be a lot of repetition, but I'm going to demonstrate the first bits and then we'll get to the rest of it. Let's see what's going on here. I'll hold this up for you for a few minutes here. Okay, let's start on some trees. I'm going to, remember we talked about the stars of the show trees? We had those two main trees that we did, this one and this one. We're going to start with those. So I want you to just grab any color blue. maybe the medium blue or the dark blue. We're going to give 2 layers of leaves. There's a leaf pattern, and we're going to give 2 layers of colors to each of the trees, but they're all going to be different. So what it's going to look like is we're going to establish the center point of your superstar tree. And then I want you to work in a circular manner, and we're going to create a tree pattern moving in a circle like a spiral, in other words. We're going to keep going all around until we build it out in little brush strokes all the way out. So we're just working around like a spiral. Think about like a nautilus pattern. And our brush strokes are working out, and then you just keep building it up in a spiral. So I'll demonstrate this one and we'll keep going. Working in a spiral. Building out from the center. With color number 1. And in this case, I'm choosing a medium blue. Working in a spiral. With our little short brush strokes. Building it up and out. All the way to the edge with our first color. I'll show you how that's going. And as long as I work in a spiral, it's going to create this whimsical pattern of the leaves. All the way out to the edge. So I got my first layer of my first tree finished. And now I'm going to go and do another tree, the other main tree. And I'm going to choose a darker green for this main tree, just to start you off. The star of the show tree. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, establishing the center point, and then working my way in a spiral to build up the pattern of this tree. So now that we both know what we're doing, we're just working, establishing the center point, and then working our way around and around in a spiral until we get to the edge. Sorry about that. Somebody at the door. I'm still working in my pattern around. And like I said, we're going to do 2 different colors on the trees, and I will explain that better as we go. But for now, I'm just working in a pattern. And that pattern, by the way, is a spiral, just building it out, working in a spiral pattern. Okay, so I've got 2 trees finished with their first layer. We're going to give it a second layer of a different color in a minute. But what we're going to do from now on is pretty simple. We're going to complete all our trees, but every tree is going to be a different shade of either blue or green. So you can do dark blue, light blue, middle blue, yellow blue, green blue, and make our first layer of trees our first color. Sorry, someone's texting me. Oh, man, I get distracted. So let me repeat that. We're going to finish our other circles, keeping in mind our same pattern. We'll establish the center with a dot and then work our way around that circle in a spiral pattern. And I want every tree circle that you drew earlier to be a different shade of either green or blue. So light blue, dark blue, middle blue, just to do our first layer. And then once we get all of that done, we're going to focus and get all that done. And then we'll come back to the first tree that we did and we'll give it a different color that is either lighter or darker. Doesn't matter, but it's going to be different than the one that we put there. So for instance, if I did kind of a medium blue here, then maybe I'm going to go back over it with a very light blue second layer of spiral. But for now, we're just going to get all of our trees established with different colors. So be creative. It's all you now. Choosing your colors, go darker. If you want to go darker, you can add a little tiny bit of black into it just to darken it up. But it's up to you. So this is where we get to be creative. I'm hunkering down here. I'm getting excited. I think I'm going to do a very yellow green on one of them. So I'm going to take a bunch of yellow and put it into my green to make a very yellowy green. And we're going to work in a spiral. So pick a tree, any tree, find the middle, and work around it in a spiral. This one that I'm working on right now is yellow-green, and it's so light, it almost blends in with the background, but that's actually a good thing because it's going to add a lot of character to the tree to have all these different greens going on in it, but it'll be there. And especially when we do our second layer, it'll show up even more. But have fun with this part. I'll stop talking. I think you've got it by now. Just working in a spiral. Every tree is a different shade of green or blue. So you can add white to it, you can add black to it, you can add more blue, just have fun. We're just going to use those 2 hues And we're going to either tint them or shade them by adding in a little black or a little white. And working in a spiral. I will say this, we're doing the first layer, and then we're going to start back at the first tree and go with the second layer. And then that second layer is going to be able to overlap the background so we can see edges. It'll make sense when we get there. It's hard to explain and have it be obvious. So I'll point it out when we get there. Keep those brush strokes tiny and purposeful. You don't want them to get too sloppy and big. Sloppy is okay, but big is not as desirable. There's my second tree. So maybe I'm going to add a little blue into that color and change it a little bit, just for fun. For example, so I did this light green, now I'm going to add a little blue into it and see if it changes it a little bit. And then I'll just choose another tree. Let's see. Maybe this one here. So I get my center point and I start working in a spiral. So here's a trick. I'm starting to get some trees that are in the background, and I have to imagine completing the circle. So this one, that's in the very far background. I have to just imagine that I'm completing the circle. So you see how I did that? And I'll do it with a darker blue so you can really see it. If here's a circle that goes off the canvas, so it's an imaginary circle. Here's the circle goes off the canvas, around and back. So I think that the center is about here. So that's where I'm going to start my spiral. And I need to put it down. Screw it up. Let's see. Going to do another dark blue one down here. Imagine it's going to work in a spiral. Do another dark blue one over here is the center point. I think I need another light blue one. Do a light blue tree here. Here. So you can look around and say, what color do I want to put next to this tree? What would look good next to the lime green tree? Maybe a blue, maybe a darker green. You get to decide. You want it to be lighter, darker. There's kind of no rules with folk art, primitive art. For example, point out the difference here. If we were, the folk artist is not concerning herself or himself with too much as far as perspective and proportion is, we would never make the trees just stacking up. If we were going to make them look very realistic, we would keep the trees in the front very bright and the trees in the back more muted because they're further back and they're being affected by the atmosphere, and so they're changing their intensity in value. And in this case, we're not concerning ourselves with that. We're just making a bright, happy painting. Maybe I'm going to do a light blue one now. I'm going to add a little white in and do a nice light blue tree back here. As long as it's different than the other ones, we will try to make them all different, and your painting will be even more exciting to look at. You just want to find your center point and build that spiral around the center point. Even if it's in the background, just imagine you're going in a circle and a spiral and continuing it, and then it'll be easy to complete the pattern. I still have some trees to do here, so I'll keep going. Maybe a yellow tree. Maybe I'm just going to do a pure yellow tree back here and see what that looks like. Oh, I love it. Try that, guys. Pure yellow. And put a yellow one on the other side too. I'm really liking this contrast. Couple more. I'm going to mix some white into my green and make a light green, kind of it's looking like a pistachio color. That'd be fun. Let me try that. Let's see, where will I put that? Down here at the bottom. Just much lighter. It's very light, so my second color will have to be darker. I think that is going to be light blue, light green, maybe a dark green. Okay, I am finished right now with my first layer. And I'm going to talk, you guys keep working. I'm going to talk about the flowers we're going to put in. In my original painting, I used violet to put in the flowers. And you can do the same if you want to do a different color of flower, or if you just want to make yellow flowers. I thought the violet was the original artist used violet. So I just stayed true to what she was doing. And violet is lavender. And you can make your own violet color if you don't have one by taking a little bit of blue and red together. And then you're going to get a dark purple depending on which blue shade you're using. And then if you want to make your violet a little bit lighter, you can add in a tiny bit of white and it'll turn it more of a lavender color. You see how that's turning? And then maybe I'm going to add in a little bit more red just to play with it and find a nice kind of flower color in the purple family. So here's more of a warm purple that I came up with here. Put a little bit of blue in there. That's pretty nice. I'll go with that. And I'm going to start laying in the flower colors the flowers at the bottom first, and they're basically a little spiral pattern. You know, I don't like that. I want it to be lighter. I changed my mind. I'm making it a lighter lavender. So I'm just doing a little starburst pattern for the flower. And they're rather big in the front. Just so remember how we did the grass bigger in the front at the bottom. And then as it goes back into the background, they're going to get smaller and smaller. And that's about all we're doing really to create the illusion of perspective. So these big flowers in the front, maybe you have a couple hanging over into the water, and that's kind of a nice idea. And by the time you get way up here in the background, your flowers are going to be quite small because they're so far back. So let's say everything under the horse is big and everything above the horse is getting smaller and smaller. So start pretty big in the front if you want to exaggerate that feeling. And I'm just working in like a little circle, almost like a spiral, but it's basically I'm going in a circle with my brush strokes. Just one circle for a flower. I'm keeping them very simple. Maybe there's a couple going off the bottom of the page. Maybe there's one hanging over the river. And we're going to get all the flowers finished. Finish your trees up here first, your first layer of trees, and then do the flowers. And then the flowers will have a chance to dry. And then at the end of our session, we will go back in and put a yellow center. By the way, I always say this, but just to remind you, if you happen to have a lavender or a purple paint already mixed in a tube, you're welcome to use that. But I always like to remind you that you can mix the colors too. Because acrylic paints come in such a wide range of color choices, you can get colors out of the tube that you could never really mix as quickly anyway, without putting a lot of thought into it, because it depends on what color you're mixing with what color. And then up here at the top, as they disappear under the trees, they're very small and maybe a little bit closer together too. So down here, they're far apart, but back there, because they're layering upon each other, they're getting closer together and smaller and smaller and smaller until they're just dots way up at the top. Let those just be dots up at the top. Okay. I worked rather quickly, but I'm going to leave my painting up here for a while until you catch up. So you see how big my flowers are at the bottom, but as they go back up into behind the trees, they get very tiny and closer together. Once again, if the flowers are finished, you can start in on your second layer of tree color, working in the same kind of spiral pattern, but you're going to choose your second color to be either darker or lighter green or blue. So this green tree in the middle here is a lighter green. So I think my second layer is going to be a darker green. Or maybe a lighter green. But whatever you choose, have it be lighter or darker, just different than the first color that you used. And I'm going to slowly work on my first tree so you can see what I'm talking about. I love this beautiful light green tree in the middle. Kind of focuses your eye on the horse right here in the middle. So I think I'm going to go with maybe a light pastel yellow. I'm going to try that. Pastel yellow, what's that? That's just yellow and white mixed together. Here I used yellow and green mixed together, and I got this color, but I'm going to try something a little bit different. This is where you get to use your creativity. I'm going to take a little yellow and a little white. And I'm going to start in maybe a tiny bit of green. I'm not sure. I'm going to test it out first. So I'm making a very, very light yellow green. That's what it looks like. I added just a tiny bit of green back into it to change it. I want to change it up. I don't want it to be the same as the first layer, in other words. So I'm going to find my center point, and now I'm going to do my second layer right next to or on top of the first layer. I'm going to work my way out in a spiral and see what happens. Okay, so that's the color I'm going to use for this next tree. Let me show you that up close. So I'm starting in with my second layer, and I chose a very, very, very light yellow green. So have fun with your color mixing. Keep your green trees in the green family and your blue trees in the blue family. For the second color, that's what I'm referring to. So there's my first tree finished. And I'm noticing that these really light green trees are very light, so I am going to choose just a darker green as the second color. So if that was coming out, working in a spiral. Over here, I did this beautiful yellow tree. I'm just going to come back in with a little bit of green. Top of that and see what that looks like. Then I'm going to work in my spiral. You'll find you won't have to do as many brush strokes because you've already got that first layer. And your second layer is just a complement to the first layer. So I didn't have to work as hard for the second layer. I'll keep it going. For my light blue tree that was the star of the show, I'm going to do an even lighter blue for contrast. See how I like that. So hopefully by now you've got all your flowers put in. If you don't, that's okay. You can keep working. But our trees are starting to get really luscious with this second layer. So if you did a good enough job, put in enough leaves, let me put it that way. If you put in enough leaves the first time around, you don't need to put as many in the second time around. You be the judge. And some of you may find that you want to put in a third layer, but that's up to you. I'm going to go darker blue over here. Nope. What you want to avoid getting is black and white mixed together because that'll start to gray down your colors and it won't be as vibrant or pretty. So be careful with your black and white mixing together. So if I want to get a dark blue, a dark, dark, dark blue, which I'm working on right now, I'm adding in so very, very little black to achieve that effect. Because all I'm trying to do is to tone it down a little bit. So I will use my dark blue down here at the bottom. See what that looks like. Yeah, it's working. A little pop there. I'll just repeat this one more time. If you put in enough leaves the first time around, you won't need as many the second time around with your second passage of color, your second pass of color. Oh, sorry, my head's in the way. A lot of texture and pattern today. Okay. I'm happy with my trees, so I'm going to leave them be. And I'm going to come in now and start putting a pure yellow dot center in the middle of my flowers. And I can lay it on pretty thick so that it really shows up. And I want to make sure that I put a center dot in at least all the foreground flowers. As we go towards the back, maybe you aren't going to see the yellow dots so much because it's so tiny. And that would be pretty accurate in nature as well. So in the front, make it big and obvious. And in the back, not so much. Okay, a few more. And then once you're finished with all your dots, and you'll finish your second layer of trees. Put your dots in the middle of your lavender flowers. And then before you call it finished, I want you to go back in, and if you see any opportunity to touch up your black tree trunks, give them a second layer, reestablish the branches if you lost them in the tree, and just give it a little once over before you sign your name at the bottom. Because we probably painted over a lot of the black tree trunks because it was the first thing we put down. So you might need to go back in and give them a little touch up. And I noticed here on my horse's ears, I'm going to put a little black center in the center of his ears as well. And find his eyes again, his little nostrils. Just little touch-ups, finishing things that you want to do. The trunks, you're just going to reestablish the tree trunks in black. If you need to, maybe you're neater than I am and you don't need to, but I'm not. I wasn't being neat in the beginning. Mostly because I knew I would come back at the end and do this. And one more. Okay. There. Now it looks, I think that the second layer of black on the tree trunks was a good idea because it looks very crisp now. Very crisp. I love it. All right, I see we've gone way over time. So I will leave you to finish your pieces, even if you're not quite there. That's okay. You can keep working all on and on if you'd like. Do all your finishing touches. But for now, you've got all the information that you need to finish your painting. Does anybody want to share with us their final painting? Let's see, Franny. Oh, I like him. Yeah, the nice looking horsey. Beautiful. Look at that. The forest. Beautiful.
Let's try to get a group.
Let's do a
photo.
screenshot. Yeah. Everybody turn on your screen. Take a minute, even if you're not finished. Take a minute, turn on your screen and show us your painting. We'll do a little screenshot. Put it a little bit higher. Make sure it's in the screen. Give it a minute. All right, Grace. Let's see. Very good. And 1, 2. Is everybody there? Marie. Oh, beautiful, Marie. Oh, love these. So creative. Let's do a screenshot. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you all so much.
I
Fun
got it.
painting.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy your beautiful Saturday, and I'll see you a month from today.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Of July too.
Hope you all
Thank
have
you.
fun.
Thank you so
Carla.
much,
Thank
Carla.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
Class.
Thank you.
Robbie, what?
I'm saying thank you so much.
Oh, you're
Beautiful class.
welcome. You're welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Carla,
Thank you.
so are you gonna go to see Allie tomorrow then?